Very sensitive guy.
Is that?
I'm just saying.
You got the wrong line of work done. You don't have some super thick skin. Ooh. Everything.
It's you? Oh, it's
Yes,
the-
ma'am. Oh, it's. the
Oh, I know, I'm like,
children.
am I, what am I hearing?
No, it's not me. I'll stop.
Okay. Ooh. Still don't see
It's
it.
11 o'clock. And with that, we'll call to order the Isabella County Board of Commissioners Finance and Administration Committee meeting. First thing we'll do is approval of the agenda.
Oh, Chairman, I'd like to amend the agenda. I think between 4 and 5. Add to the agenda, consider requesting a proposal from Spence Brothers regarding delivery method for building construction of the Isabella County Administration Building.
I will second that motion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. We have an amended agenda. We'll call to the public. Very familiar faces out there. Okay,
Appreciate the warning. Thank you.
anybody online? And then
There is not at this time, Mr. Chairman, for public comment.
Then on to the first item, which is consider approving the prime contract change order number 14 with Clark Construction in the net additional amount of $14,564 and authorize the board chairperson to sign the same. Heidi, are you here?
She is not online and I don't see her in the room. I think though we can probably
How about if we,
cover this, or we can hold in case she hops on.
Hold
Yeah.
it to the end.
we'll hold, because Heidi's usually here. We'll move on to the next item, which is Spence Brothers regarding delivery method for reconstruction of the administration building.
So good morning, Brian. Are you able to hear us okay and see us okay this morning?
Yes, I can. Good morning.
Excellent. Good morning. I did just speak with the commissioners about our conversation, how we were hoping to revisit that whole delivery method and the options available to us on rebuilding the county building. We
Right.
want to certainly be as smart as possible with our dollars and as nimble as we can be. So I know we had briefly talked about a couple of methods that color of delivery methods that were options, and I'm hoping you can help educate the board. I've got that one pager. Would you like me to share it or not yet? Or were you planning to share it or?
Yeah, either way, if you want to share it, I've got it on my screen, but I wanted to make sure they've seen it. I mean, I know it was kind of a heavy lift, the amount of information we were chatting about last week, Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever day it was, with just trying to understand the differences. So I didn't, there we go. So I mean, we started to pull together a proposal. Honestly, here, this is what I told Nicole is, we started pulling together a proposal, but we were waiting to see how Tuesday night went with David and Spicer and get approval. And then I was just not feeling like I was going to send in anything until I had at least had a conversation with some of you to make sure this is really what you wanted to go down the road. So Nicole started asking a couple more questions, and I thought about this little cheat sheet that we've used on previous projects and previous owners just to try to help lay it out in a simple fashion. So, this sheet has 3 different, call them org charts, but it's really a contractual obligation. So, this general contractor, and I think most people refer to this as the design, fully design it, you bid it, and then you build it, and you've got the owner on the top. Maybe they have a representative, but they have 2 contracts, one with the architect and then one with the general contractor. And then there's the dotted lines in between, the architect and general, because they work together, to make it happen. But both of them are obligated under contract direct to the owner. And then obviously the trades are all under our contract. So that's your traditional design it, you bid it, and then you build it. what we were talking about last week was kind of a construction management approach. And if you notice, the boxes are exactly the same. So you still have a contract direct with the architect. You still have a contract direct with us, although it's under a different type of contract. And then all of the subs are direct to us. Then on the third one is really where it gets to be a little bit different. On the what we kind of call as a CM design build, or just flat out design build, where you have one contract responsibility, and that's to the CM design builder, and then they in turn hold the architect Spicer's contract, and in turn hold the subcontractors. And there are some benefits to
See where
this.
we got off. Yeah, I think we were thinking it was one thing and calling it another.
Yeah,
And so I just wanted to be clear with everyone what the method chosen would be.
we've done this one as well as the CM numerous times. I will say probably 8 out of 10 times owners decide to go to the one in the middle, where it's a true CM, where you hold two contracts, one with the architect and then one direct with the CM. And I'm sure that's probably what you've got on the jail with Clark and whoever the architect is. There's just a lot of advantages to this one definitely over the one up above. But even the one below that, just the idea, and I mentioned to Nicole, is, kind of you got 3 legs to the stool, and all 3 of you help support one another in a way, in all under different responsibilities, rather than when you have a CM design builder, the architect is working for the contractor, and I would never say that we do anything, but I'm sure there could be the I'll say it could appear that when the designer is working for the contractor direct. So this is our preferred method here in the middle. The second sheet that I shared is really differentiates the advantages of the CM, which is the second, over the general contracting, the hard bid, design bid build sheet. So this just
And I
goes
think that's the method we kind of we leaned towards, but I think in the discussion, we started to call it design build.
yeah.
And I think that's where we kind of lost it on our end, lost
Understood.
understanding.
Understood.
Yeah.
And I think you would get all of this either under, I'll say, option 2 or option 3. It's just more common to be under the true CM advantage. And I don't necessarily need to read through all this unless you wanted to. It's just an overall better collaborative approach. And to be frank, it'll give you a speedier process, because we'll be able to pull work forward and early procure just some of those items that I mentioned in the meeting: early procurement, reserve, resources with the subs, and on the last one, your greater local involvement, because we're able to reach out to the local subs to bid. So I guess what I was just asking Nicole, I didn't want to be so forthright and just send you a proposal without having another conversation circling back. If it's something you're interested in, we've worked obviously with Spicer a lot. We could pull something together, I'll say within a couple days, and have it in your draft for review. It's really a simple initial contract setup. We're not guaranteeing the price of the project. We're just committing resources to the team through the pre-construction efforts with a fee to manage the job once you move into the construction phase.
Yeah, and I'm sorry about any miscommunications. If you had sent a proposal, clearly I would have misunderstood it. So I'm glad it happened this way, and I'm glad that the commissioners understand. I understand the options available, and I think it's probably appropriate to take a little time to talk about what we are most comfortable with moving forward. And if you want to ask Brian for Spence to forward that formal proposal.
Appreciate this. Okay.
Well, I think we need to be nimble. we need to be cost effective, and if construction management is the way to go. Yeah,
We are operating under a time constraint to a certain extent because of our lease
yeah.
arrangement. So.
We sure are.
So I'd go with the recommendation.
Seems to make the most sense.
So what I'm hearing is, hopefully by Friday morning, if possible, noon would be, the absolute cutoff. If you could get something for us, we can get that in the commissioners' packets, for their Tuesday, meeting on the 20th. That's a 5 p.m. work session, 7 p.m. regular meeting, although your attendance wouldn't be required at the 7 p.m. We do Zoom those as well. So, Zoom attendance is just fine.
Yeah.
I will add, Spicer is on. I did call David just about 20 minutes ago and he was able to hop on. So he is on now and hopefully, someone from Spicer would be able to join next week if there's any questions from the rest of the board too.
Okay,
We
excellent.
can be nimble.
You'll have it prior to Friday by noon.
Excellent. Excellent.
Thank you, Brian.
Any question? Any?
No, that's.
No, I will
Good.
make a motion that we move the Spence Brothers regarding delivery method, specifically construction management, for consideration of the work session on Tuesday.
Support.
Moved and supported. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. It moves forward.
Thank you,
Brian.
Brian.
Thank you,
Thank you
Brian.
for being here.
Oh,
Is
thanks.
Heidi here?
Heidi did hop on during that
You're right.
conversation. Yeah, so she is on the Zoom now and hopefully ready to talk about a change order on another big
So
project.
looking at approving a change order, the prime contract change order number 14 with Clark Construction in the net additional amount of $14,564 with authorizing the board chairperson to sign the same.
Good morning.
So-
I don't know what's going on with my camera. I think I'll just stop the video because I keep trying to move my computer and I only get half.
Just have to move over to the right.
Well,
There you
like,
go.
yeah, it's kind of awkward, so. I'm not sure what's going on here, but I'm gonna stop the video. So. So we have prime contract change order number 14 is in front of you. There is no additional cost to the contract. All these funds are coming from the current buyout, and we have not touched contingency at this time. The first item on the list here is PCO 86, which is for the Wi-Fi pucks for the sheriff's vehicles. Adding those into the front, I guess, the front of the building where the sheriff will be parking in all their vehicles, and then also one in the Sally Port. So that those ads that the sheriff requested was a total of $6,141. And then that buyout line there is takes in that right from the buyout. The next item is field directive. This is basically one contractor had to fix some things and we had to back charge the other contractor for the fix because of the issues that came about. So there's no change to the contract there. I just need to move money from one contractor to the other one to pay for the item. And that was for some pat track along the parapet there because we had the steel was out of line just a little bit. So they were able to fix it with some hat track. And then the next one, repair some concrete floors. Again, that was from, we had to saw cut some floors and fix some plumbing. And so that was a mistake on their part, on the contractor's part, the plumber. So concrete contractor kind of had to come out and fill in those areas where we had a saw cut. So it's back and forth between them, no cost to the project. And then the last item is PCO 93, or I guess there's two more items, I'm sorry, 93. The staff toilet, the wall, in order to put the plumbing carriers in the wall, we had to go from 8-inch block to a 12-inch block. That additional cost to go upgrading to the 12-inch block so those carriers would fit properly was $425 to Strauss, and that came out of the buyout. And then the last item there is PCO 94, which is CCD 20. That one there we had to per the township request, change that bypass out there on the, water coming into the building, for the RPZ, and that cost was $998, and that also came out of buyout. So for a total of cost that was, associated with this change order, it's $14,564. So, any questions? I know I kind of went over a little fast.
Covered it well.
Okay, thank
We
you.
are, I think it's important to know, and please confirm, Heidi, we are still in the black with the project to the tune of almost $1 million or approximately $1 million
Correct.
with contingency and buyout. I think that's important to mention.
Yes, we are, I got it up on my screen here, we are at, 1,056,000, so.
$1,056,000. Awesome.
If there's no further discussion,
Not for me.
Mr. Ember, I'd like to make the motion.
Should, consider, I'd like to move that we take consideration of approving the prime contract change order number 14 with Clark Construction in the net additional amount of $14,564 to our work session Tuesday night.
I will support that. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. It moves forward. The next item is discussion regarding. Nope, consider adopting the Isabella County fiscal year 2025 budget calendar as presented. So that worked fairly well last year, gave us a little more time, and we're gonna need a little bit more time this year than we've had in the past, so.
Yeah, so we should have included last year's probably just so you could see so you could compare. I can pull it up if you want to do that, certainly. But we pulled it back even more in the beginning, but not to address fiscal 25 budget, but really to meet. You see some time, March 11th through the 22nd, to meet with departments to discuss the current budget as part of the budget calendar for next year, right? It doesn't make any sense to me about pie in the sky next year expectations or without knowing where we stand this year. This will be after an important millage vote, and those meetings will have a little more purpose about the current year. So I just want to want to point out that we are starting with the current year in the fiscal 25 budget. And then we roll into preparing fiscal 25 wage and benefit information from each department based on those meetings for current year, right? With realistic expectations for 25. Then we'll roll that information out. We give it out to departments and department heads, elected officials. We say at a budget workshop, but it's we basically have a sort of a department head meeting, hand out everybody's individual packets, and anybody has questions, they hang around, but everybody's even the newbies are pretty good at this, and it's a good process. So that rollout doesn't take a long time, but the departments have a little under a month to get their preliminary 25 information back to admin then. We take a few weeks to meet with departments after their requested budget, and we work to prepare what will be the administrator's recommended budget. So we bring that first draft to finance in May. I think it is earlier than last year. And that is the big scary draft that usually is a few million over budget, right? Or a deficit. And we work to bring that closer. We'll do a second round of meetings with electeds and department heads to discuss the proposed fiscal year 25 budget. And before, I think we said as needed, but I think there will be a second round of meetings this time. Instead of just then bringing that forward, we always skip this July meeting, and in our board schedule this year, we don't even have a July meeting, right? So that means you won't have a June you only have one finance meeting in June that's on the schedule, because the second finance meeting in June was canceled because you don't have a first meeting in July. So we think that doesn't bode really well, right? And we don't want to just add a date on the calendar right now. We can talk about that and add it when it's appropriate, but we just want to recognize that in June, in late June, we're probably going to need to schedule an additional finance meeting. It's not something we've done before, but it makes sense to do that, especially where we're at in the process, right? That's really early on. That's big cuts. So we tried to be smart about this and think what would flow better. We've got a few years of experience under our belt now. And so then we prepare that recommended budget that comes from admin and is recommended for adoption. And that goes through 2, 3, 4, if necessary, drafts at finance to be able to then get the budget out to department heads, electeds, the board and their packets late August. Then we have an opportunity at that August meeting last August meeting where I'll present the recommended budget. So then that first September meeting, you have your public hearing, and the second September meeting, you adopt it. So that if there's meaningful comments posed at the public hearing, you've got an opportunity to incorporate them into what's finally adopted.
Sure.
And then it'll be really close time for audit again.
I like it. I like that you carved out time to discuss the 24 budget potential amendments. It's a lot of sense.
Because we're gonna, depending on what happens.
Right.
Mhm.
I know the next time we're discussing the county budget. But is there some place in here? We're informally looking at trying to quantify budget cuts if the millage doesn't go through.
Mhm.
And at some point, the board's gonna have to act on a list of cuts
Mhm.
that will impact this whole process and I don't know where that would be presented, probably obviously after February 27th, but
I-
sometime early in the process because they may have to work those in.
Exactly. And if we have to work those in, those meetings, I think are where those will be vetted out and worked in.
Sometime between February 27th and March 11th
Mhm.
is where we need to
Mhm. Mhm.
go.
Where we need to communicate
Yeah, we're gonna have to communicate.
Plan B.
Yep, Plan B. So we've got until. Yeah. So by February 27th, we should have our Plan B in order. Ideally,
I'm hoping by the end of this week, we'll have our Plan B in order.
even better.
Mhm.
Plan B will have to be, it hasn't been shared with everyone. It's just been working on some ideas right now and quantifying dollar savings. And eventually we'll have to bring the other board members in to some kind of an agreement. Because some of the
Absolutely.
things might be very controversial. And I like the schedule and it gives us some additional time.
I like that it doesn't compress it at the end. It allows it's a very open, public, transparent process, lots of feedback at the finance meetings, still a lot of feedback once it gets to the full board level. And I think that's to be commended.
I know, I think we talked about this last year, this idea of getting our department heads and electeds very much involved in this early on. We need commitments from them, so that we all are on the same page moving forward with any situation. So I appreciate pushing it back, giving us more time, giving them time to be an integral part of this conversation. So we're gonna need buy-in, especially when we start moving forward if this millage doesn't pass. Okay, thank you.
I will move consideration for adopting the Isabella County fiscal year 2025 budget calendar to the work session next week. Or moved and supported, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. It moves forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Discussion regarding the county budget. I know, like I said, we're working on a Plan B. The only thing I would probably throw out on the floor right now is that now that we know we have an architect engineer and we know we're probably looking at least $200 a square foot to put that building back in together. That's about, for the 29,000 square feet we have, that's about $5.5 million. You add that to the asbestos remediation and temporary housing and moving in and out, in and out. And so I'm thinking we're looking at something exceeding 7 million, probably closing on $8 million when it's all said and done. Dollars we don't have, so what that tells me is we'll have to borrow this money in some fashion, either bond it or get a loan. And that's gonna add to our long-term deficit forecast, so.
It will. It absolutely will. And I have been in contact with bond counsel as we, had discussed earlier to make sure that those are viable options for us, and they are. I think once we know a tighter amount, a not to exceed amount, then we can start that notice of intent process.
Process.
Mhm.
I know I briefly discussed this idea of asking MDOT for an updated forecasting tool of the budget with that high-end dollar amount for this reconstruction. We can see what our long-term forecast looks like.
What do you do in your
No.
spare time? I feel bad for you. I know you're in a really awful position. You're a kingpin in this whole process.
Thank you, sir. It's trying. Definitely trying. You do start to question, right? If you're the right one to move it forward, because so many things are going the other way, but I'm committed. I'm here. I think the board is too.
So I hope we can lift some of it. Well, you may have to do the background information, we are a team.
You've
The
shown
whole
me.
team, the county, all the county employees and the board and administration, we'll work through this and somehow we'll get through it. I have my meeting with Lincoln Township tonight, and I remember the
At Rollins.
supervisor there
Mhm.
said, if this millage passes, can you guarantee there won't be other reductions? I gotta tell them tonight, there's no guarantee, especially now with this building situation we're looking at, but we're getting our act together, getting the things done in the background, and we'll be prepared to move forward as we need to.
And just a little encouragement to our administrator. I really appreciate the fact that we're making every effort to get out in front of this. We're really trying to avoid a knee-jerk reaction. And I know we've been working at this for over a year since we've been on the board and prior. And I have to express my appreciation for that. Getting back to being thoughtful and considerate, prudent in all of our decision-making in this process. So I realize that it's going to be very difficult, this entire process, but I feel like we have the right people in the right place to make that happen. So,
Yeah, we have a fantastic team.
great.
All that said and done, we know there's gonna be a citizen initiated petition to put on the ballot, axe the tax, which means get rid of all your property taxes. And we'll,
Sounds wonderful, doesn't it?
yeah.
Especially from that side, yeah.
Is the state able to pick up all the costs necessary to operate local government? Maybe a lot of out of business signs hanging on township, county buildings,
Can you imagine?
but. So.
At least we won't be in that alone,
Yeah,
right?
Correct.
We'll have a lot of commiseration.
We're gonna get to that point.
all right, we've had the discussion for right now. Move on to the invoice list discussion.
Second.
First, list is the February 2nd.
We're up to about a 500,000 on the abatement so far.
So total.
To this end, yeah, well, 1.2, more 1.3 with the recent change order of the 40,000.
I wonder where they are in percentage of getting the building done. I know we're in it again, but
Well, I feel like 33.3, right?
Yeah,
Because they're
third
essentially
floor
done with
still
third
empty.
floor.
Just one empty big cavern. You can't go up there until they finish testing.
Mhm.
Maybe next week or something.
Or that was last week, so maybe this
Maybe
week,
next
right?
week.
Yeah, I feel like it.
so if we're closing on 50% of the costs and only 30% done,
Probably their ramp
Not
up
all
costs are
factors are-
right. You should have seen like the west parking lot where that they're using. When they began, there was maybe 1 or 2 cars there, and then all of a sudden you'd look and that lot would be fuller than we had it. So I think it has to do probably manpower, I would think, manpower and disposal probably are their biggest item. So
Yeah.
probably has to do with that manpower curve on the project, would be my guess.
Ooh,
Yeah.
I didn't have any other questions on the February 2nd list. Okay. Move on then to the February 9th. So we do have $12,626 to legal firm for solar review consulting for community development. I don't know where we are with the proposed solar farm in the Isabella Township area, but
Commissioner Director Newport was here this morning, but I believe that we still do not have a completed application from the applicant on the utility scale solar farm at this time.
okay. Well, there was, I did attend the Cole Township meeting last night. And there was a young woman there that did, under public comments, she was really opposed to solar on prime agricultural land because it's taking that land out of agricultural production. And what's that gonna do to our food in the future? And the fact that, which was brought up someplace else, I heard it, that they're gonna remove soil and put rock in, that
Right.
it'd be very difficult to get it back into production in the future. So I got up then after she was done and gave my spiel and suggested that as township residents may contact the officials, be on alert that we're trying to get a new tool on our thing that people can go in and determine what the actual property tax increase would be from the 2.5 mil. I'd mentioned that it was gonna possibly be
Nice.
anywhere from next day to Thursday. But they were all very supportive of that. Well, young lady came over to me and asked about, would it be okay to come to make public comment at the county board meeting? So I suspect she'll be at probably a future work session or the board, but
Great. It's a great talking point, a good chance for education. Farmland preservation was a big piece of the utility scale wind farms, right? Because they only took about a half an acre out of production. Huge farmland preservation. Who else you're not gonna have any development around them, right? Because the setbacks are so great. With solar, it's more of the area is returned back to farming, right? Because clearly it's gonna be hard to production agriculture under solar panels, right? There are some sheep grazing type of thing, there are some forms of agriculture they can do in combination with solar.
Okay.
But I think the big ag preservation piece with solar is that after the solar farm is decommissioned, the ground can be returned to agriculture. So in my mind, the ag land preservation piece for solar is that it gives revenue to that farm family for a generation, for the term of those leases, and keeps that farmland in that family, keeps it farmland, at least it can be returned to ag. I'm sure solar's, still considered ag. I'm talking about traditional cash crops. Yeah.
Another
Yeah.
source of income off their property. Sure.
Mhm. So it really is, at first I was like, no, that's taking too much, kind of like, so maybe we can have that discussion with her about the ag preservation benefits, because that really
she was very refreshing.
Right
She
there.
wasn't angry.
good.
She made some good points
Open-minded.
and you could tell she was talking from her heart. So
It's a good place to start.
And
anyhow,
given our expertise with,
we are
Commissioner
approving, looking to approve a payment of 12,626. Got off topic here a little bit.
2% funds for recycling.
Anything else on the list that anybody would wish to bring up?
Yep.
All right,
Forward, sir. Yeah, for me.
just move on then to approval at work session.
Yes, sir.
Any announcements?
Nothing from me.
Nope.
Nothing here. We'll do a final call to the public. There's our call to the public.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Sir, state your name.
2 minutes, stand that. Just wanted to bring some some discussion we had earlier at the Criminal Justice and County Affairs Committee, so, and something I've been concerned about for a while anyways, but first off, you guys didn't get the memo, because we all were,
Well,
flannel at the meeting.
That's
When
good.
you're coming here, so anyways.
I wore it yesterday. I wore it.
Anyways, so anyways,
New
of course,
guy.
we had another thing from the Public Defender's Office about egg. And it was almost ironic that I accused Director Newport that he had stole my notes because I had it on there and he brought it up first, but I want to get into a discussion on looking at our policy and changing policies, so it was a pretty good discussion. And I think you guys are frustrated. The system we have now does not seem to be working and seems to cause a lot of confusion. There were, like, be accused of picking winner. So I think we need to, in fact, one of the policies I didn't realize that was coming in here is that we do a promotion from, I just read this here and I didn't realize this. Of course, this is on page 101 and I have to admit that I have not been through all the policies, and I don't know them by heart yet, but actually, when we promote a person to a higher pay grade, they have to start at the lowest, but it has to be 5% above. And but the policy says that any pay grade increase has to come to the board, which I'm not opposed to that, but some of the ideas that I've talked to all these ad hoc, as far as what I talked about is giving a little more authority within the departments and department heads. And, one of the discussions went into is maybe we have 5 pay grades, so maybe expecting those pay grades, and right now they're set on just specific years. So maybe so they can have a little more
Flexibility.
flexibility within that, maybe there's more retention if you can actually, once they hit your 5, you're pretty well stuck in that grade level until you go up one, so. Just wanted to get you guys, I wanted to plant a seed, and I think we need to start talking about it because it just doesn't seem to be working very well. And I really don't think we should be into determining wages outside the budgetary issues within each department, but if you get a chance to look at that discussion, I said it was pretty good. So, and I know it just something that just doesn't seem to be working very well. So I wanted to bring it up and have you guys start thinking for any ideas to kind of figure a way to give the flexibility out. So having to come to the board, having us try to make the day, but we don't have enough information on pick who we do and who we don't. So that's the discussion. That's all I wanted to get to you guys and.
I know. We've all,
appreciate it.
I appreciate it. I think we've all had that this conversation
Yeah.
about empowering our department heads.
Yep.
I mean, either we have good department heads that can manage a budget or we don't. I mean,
And it's up
our
to
job
us.
is to set a budget for them and they've got to be able to work within that budget and they've got to make prudent decisions within the context of how they do their work and what's best for the departments. And ultimately, they will have to answer to us. No, we still maintain the oversight in the budgetary process of how much money they're gonna be. Yeah.
Look at it, change it, because it's the,
Way we're doing it now.
just there, nobody's happy. Exactly. So I think, maybe those are some options we can do as far as expanding that out, looking at, those are just, like I said.
Maybe that's a conversation we have with our Amy Sell folks.
We, she and I talked about.
Really expand the scope. They're doing too much, but this sounds. Their
That's it, their
wheelhouse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
proposals at this time, but I do have ideas and I just, just start thinking about it. You know, I just would love to see us, I know we got a lot on our plate, we see cause a lot of issues.
Process wise, we talked about it, change to policy comes through Finance and Administration Committee, right? So you probably will see at a minimum a discussion on your agenda next time regarding this, and then maybe there'll be some policy recommendation that comes with that. But just a discussion to talk about, vet this through and see if there's any changes that you guys recommend coming from that.
Something through the well thinking about it.
Yeah.
Trying to get some other department heads.
So did you get some kind of commendation from Commissioner Swaney regarding the fact that you're falling in line with the Swaney principle, being nimble? I mean,
Oh, I thought you meant wearing flannel.
no, I mean, this
English been doing that a long time.
this falls right in line with the Swaney principle. Thank you for that. Great idea.
I don't care.
I like it.
If you want to, yeah, but it just gotta be like that.
Yes, agreed.
I think it, like I said, between the board, it causes the eggs, between the employees, it causes the angst. So it's like,
Sure does.
I like to just get it going, and like I said, I'm not pushing for any policy change. I want to have ideas.
Fully got the whole idea.
So that's all.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for sticking around.
I'll sit here unless you get that phone.
Nope.
It's an open meeting. You're welcome to sit at this table.
3 minutes.
Any other public comment? Why didn't we expect this? No. You're our most public commenter ever.
So I'm just gonna say, to tag along with Frank, if any of you read what I put out last week, 30 years ago, when I came to Isabella County with 5 years of experience, I started at the very bottom at the start wage. And that was, I had come from a very small county, and when I came here, the wage itself was, of course, a lot less than what I left with. And then I found out they only worked 37.5 hours, and it came from 40. So it was coming to something that was paying a lot less. And this is a lot larger county. I had a job here in Isabella County, not doing what I was passionate about. So it was a hard decision, and I can be quite honest. If my husband hadn't supported me in that, I wouldn't have made the decision. And if my children weren't older, if I was still paying daycare costs, I wouldn't have been able to make that decision. You guys would have been without me. I mean, how would you have handled this public comment without me?
Where would we be now?
I know, where would you be? But I think this is something that has been ongoing for this whole 30 years. Since I've been here, I know it was there before. So I think it's kind of something that has seen its day. I don't think it serves us any longer. And because we are just 37.5 hours, for people who are coming here, if they're coming from someplace else with experience, it is a hard sell, and we have to consider that those people, not only do they have that experience, but if they're coming from 40 hours, that's a tough decision for a lot of people. We're asking them to give. And so if somebody is passionate about what they do, yeah, they're going to make that decision. But if they're not, it's really, they may be great at their job and do an awesome job, but it's going to be hard for them to be able to do that. And do we want to make people, not just that individual, but like in my case, it's my whole family that affected. And it doesn't just affect you today because it's your retirement, it's your long-term, there are legacy costs on both ends of an employee-employer contract. It affects the employer. Yes, there are legacy costs, but for that employee, there are legacy costs too, because if you're working at a much reduced rate. And now we are at the, I was fortunate because I came in before when it was the defined benefit, but the people coming now are the defined contribution. And so it has a much greater effect on them because if they're coming in at that lower rate, they're only coming in at 37.5 hours. If you calculate that out for the term, if they're gonna be a long-term employee and they're staying here for 30 years, that's a huge effect on them 30 years from now when they're trying to retire. So I think we have to look into that whole thing too. And that's not what I was gonna say. My original thing was, I think one of the things that people keep looking to us about the millage is that guarantee thing. We can't make guarantees. Obviously, that 70s building didn't come with guarantees, or we wouldn't be in the mess that we're in now. We didn't make the issues that we're dealing with. And so I think, I don't know about you guys, but I can't guarantee that I'm gonna be here tomorrow. And I don't think any of you can guarantee that you're gonna be here tomorrow. I don't think we can make guarantees on what's gonna happen tomorrow. If we could, we wouldn't be in the mess that we're in today.
We'd have it already fixed.
You know, and it's like, people have to understand that you guys are doing the best that you can and making the best decisions that you can make in the difficult circumstances that you're in, but you can't make guarantees. You're not Godheads. You cannot see into the future. We have tools that allow us to make the best decisions that we possibly can, but we can't see into the future. 2 years ago, we couldn't see into the walls of the building to know what was coming. You know, it's like people have to come up with or recognize that there was no way that we could predict this, and we can't wave a magic wand and make it go. It happened. The best way that we can, and I think that that's what's going on. We just have to deal with it and move on. And they're gonna have to learn to deal with that.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Registrar Jackson.
Steve, you know, it hasn't come up.
But just to bring up what she brought up, the corridor policy. Anytime new hire has to start at the lowest, so it has to come to the board. So that's why we get a lot of these coming in here. The other ideas, which is it automatic increases as longevity 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. But the other thing we may look at, which makes it a little more difficult, maybe expand the pay rates. So that there's a little more flexibility in the starting. And I do agree that the pay rate is up. Or is it finance? I don't disagree with that, but just looking to try to get more flexibility within the department, so they don't have to constantly. And if we didn't have that where they have to start at the lowest pay grade, we wouldn't be having these discussions.
I know the principle behind that is you get more pay as you learn the job. And if you got somebody right out of school, whether it's high school or college, they don't have all the necessary information necessary to do the job. However, if you're bringing somebody in, let's say the registered deeds office has an opening and they're bringing somebody in from a registered deed office elsewhere, they probably have those skills and they warrant bigger pay increases. So I can see some flexibility, but I think ultimately there has to be somebody that does a final review and gives approval. Maybe it doesn't have to come up to the county board.
Department head.
But yeah, I can understand that.
I'm just, yeah, these are all just. Some of them are throwaway ideas, and some of them are, let's talk about them, so.
So get them all out on the table. Great.
Causing operational concerns.
Mhm.
We need to address that.
Yes.
And then when you get to the top of the scale, you may be a dynamic person with all the skills, but now you're marketable elsewhere where you can, in Parks and Recreation. I found that once you get to the top, you're not gonna get anything but your cost of living. It was behoove you to move on to another agency that would pay more.
Yeah.
It's difficult, the difficult thing to have to deal with.
And.
Yeah.
Oops.
Well, if there aren't any more public to make comments, we'll adjourn this meeting.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah.